Today's speaker is Reverend Carol Richardson, who will be speaking to us about the politics of spirituality. And let me just tell you briefly a little bit about her background. She has a Master's of Divinity. She has a Master of Public Health. She was born on the equator in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And she spent her childhood years moving with her Ivy-educated parents who were missionaries. They moved every 1 to 2 years, and her childhood was spent coming back and forth between the U.S. and Africa. She was widowed and had an infant and child and was called to the ministry. And she served in congregations for about 15 years, and then she has written a book called should have put it up here, The Politics of Spirituality. It's Truth and Illusion: The Politics of Spirituality, and she does have copies of the book here if you want a copy of the book. So I'll go ahead and let her start her presentation. If you would hold questions until the end, then we can pass the microphone around, and that way it makes it a little easier for people to hear. Okay, thank you. Let's welcome our speaker.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful. Let me just make sure I give accurate credit. I looked out for a moment noticing a friend here and didn't notice, did she say Ivy League parents? Ivy League graduate degree parents is what I was educated. So when you hear that they were missionaries, please don't think shove religion down people's throats. Please think intellectuals who went to serve and empower people around the world and happen to be as Christians. Yeah, so please hear it that way. My parents were remarkable people, and I'd actually, if I may, I'd like to dedicate this next announcement to my father, who believed in my theological writings more than any other human being I'm aware of. So the book is Truth and Illusion: The Politics of Spirituality, and How One Person's Lie is Another One's Truth. And the announcement that I dedicate to my father is that just a week and a half ago, I learned that this earned a silver medal in the Independent Publisher Book Awards, or the IPPEs, in the category of religion, Eastern, Western. So that's for my dad. That medal is for my dad. So thank you. So yeah, how do I describe myself? I added Reiki Master. I have studiously avoided becoming a Reiki Master, and I was like, we'll just throw it up there and play with that for a time. The title I'd really like to sort of add, it's not a title and it's not about me. It's about the universe. Please hear this next one is about the universe and the nature of the universe. Mystic. Okay. When I became a mystic, my whole understanding of truth and illusion changed radically. All right, I have a little clicker here, I understand. What is truth? I'm guessing that many of you, like me, in 2016 thought, oh dear God, what's happening? There's this camp of people here in the United States thinking this version of truth, or would we call it lies, and this other camp of people here in the United States thinking this good truth or lies or true. And clearly these people weren't going to believe this people's truth or lies, and these people weren't going to believe this people's truth or lies. And how do we make sense of it? That was the origin of my quest to look into truth and illusion and how we can understand that we all have such different understandings of truth. So would any one of us, please raise your hand if you do, would any one of us claim to know all of the truth in the universe? Woohoo!
I knew you were going to raise your hand.
We have one!
I know you. Raise their hand.
Great. Would you like to come up here and explain this?
Oh no, he'd be here for 3 hours.
Okay.
If I can have you honorary that you're getting paid, I will be happy to.
I wasn't told there was an honorarium with us, so I don't know about that. I could share 0 with you. Here's 0. For now, maybe we could all agree that most, if not all of us, are operating on the basis of theories and beliefs. Okay? So, my right's better than your right. Your wrong's worse than mine. Nope, not going to do that today. All right, for now, we're just looking into and exploring truth and illusion. So we've had this incredible divisiveness over truth, and that is my motivation for understanding how we have these different views. Western science and the Eastern science of subtle energy and spirituality both explore the nature of the universe and human nature. This is not quite working as well as I'd like it to. One with the concept of divinity absolutely absent from its understanding of the universe, and the other with the concept of divinity completely and utterly present in its understanding of the universe. That's the distinction that I'd like to note today. So what leads us to truth? How do we arrive at some sense of truth? Thich Nhat Hanh said or wrote, "We all need something good, beautiful, and true to believe in. Mindfulness is the light that shows us the way. Mindfulness gives rise to insight, awakening, and love." And for today, I'd like to invite us to understand that if truth is really worthy of being called truth, it must somehow be connected with love.
Could you say that again?
If truth is somehow worthy of being called truth, it must somehow be connected with love. And Einstein. I have more quotes from Einstein in this book than from anyone else. I love Einstein's thinking. Whether you can observe a thing or not depends on the theory which you use. It is the theory which decides what can be observed. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. I discovered a little more about this. My son got a PhD in particle physics last year, and he went over to study on the Large Hadron Collider and smashed particles together at almost the speed of light, and I tried to help edit his dissertation. And I got to the point where it sounded like triggers were actually creating particles. And I was like, I'm out of here. I don't know if that's what he's meant to write or not. That's too freaky for me. Triggers, not just the detector, but triggers creating particles. Albert Einstein once wrote that a scientist naturally engages in epistemology while investigating the natural world in order to question what we think we already know. Only by questioning what we believe we already know can we actually begin to discover if it is true or not. So epistemology is my shorthand way of saying it, is just the study of what we can know and how we can know it, and whether or not we can know it. So what Einstein was saying is, in order to actually get at something we can truly say, yes, I know this for certain sure, is we have to question everything we already think we know, because it comes from probably some assumptions and some cultural influence and what mom and dad thought and believed and taught us. Okay? So we have to throw all of that out and start over if we want to be scientists and doing true epistemology in order to find an ultimate, yes, this is for certain, true truth. So I'd like to invite us to do one really important thing on our quest for truth. Get over dualities. Dualities are split in two. So any given duality only has half the truth, right? So my favorite one to deal with is the duality of masculine and feminine. How many of us grew up reading textbooks or went to school reading textbooks where everything was man and he and all of that stuff? Yeah, that's called androcentrism, when we tell a story or write a text from the perspective of a man. I was trying so hard to read Jürgen Moltmann's book, written in 1958. I was in Vanderbilt Divinity School, and I was like, okay, he keeps writing about theologians. Maybe he means a theologian can be a woman. And then he added, it's as if a theologian goes home to his wife. And I was like, oh, he had no intention of including us women as potential theologians. Right. None at all in his head. That wasn't even a possibility. At that point, if I hadn't already become a feminist thanks to Vanderbilt Divinity School, I firmly became a feminist. And I was like, this is ridiculous, this has got to stop. No more gender exclusive language, sorry, it's all about us, humankind, not mankind, humankind, he or she, etc. Because we women get to be theologians too. As a matter of fact, everyone is a natural inborn theologian. I'm just going to throw that out there and leave it. So men and women run around thinking, I'm going to stereotype for a minute, please forgive me, and I love transgender folks because they invite us to join it all together and not think that we have to think like a man or a woman. You know, this is good news. I'm going to stay with the stereotypes for a minute. Men run around thinking like men, women run around thinking like women, and masculine and feminine doesn't necessarily have anything to do with our embodied genders, but masculine ways of thinking and feminine ways of thinking are different from each other. One tends to be more left brain, one tends to be more right brain. And the cool thing is when we realize that, we can go, oh yeah, if I'm thinking just like a man or just like a woman, I'm only accessing half the truth. See the problem there? We have to listen to each other. The big issue is that we are coming out of 5,000 years of patriarchy. Patriarchal religions have dominated the earth and humanity, except for pockets of indigenous peoples who've kept a balance, a harmonious balance. Patriarchy has dominated the world for 5,000 years. And we're just now coming out of it. Yay!
Yay.
So what if we finally allow women to help us determine what needs to be studied in order to understand what it means to be human, which is one aspect of understanding what is truth. I'd like to give you an example. Women often get pregnant, right? When you're pregnant, there's this other little being inside you. And one of the things I learned in my master's in public health is our whole bodies become oriented to the well-being of that little person inside us, to the point that our blood levels of nutrients drop so that the blood nutrients can flow smoothly in through the placenta to the baby. That means mom is not getting the level of nutrients she's used to having in her blood. It's a sacrifice. And so this metaphorically speaks of what it's like to be human. There's an essential quality of having our whole being, body, mind, and soul, exist for the well-being of another human being. That's an essential quality of being human. Now, I know that parents know this experience, right? Middle of the night, oh, I need some more sleep, but this child has a great need right now. What if we rethink what it means to be human based on that thought? Part of our humanity depends on us being oriented completely in our whole self towards the well-being of another person sometimes, or to another group of people sometimes. Doesn't that shift things a bit? I hope so. Okay, this is a quote from Truth and Illusion. One of the fallacies of the patriarchal approach is the idea that we become weak and vulnerable if we express our needs and feelings, and therefore we must remain strong by rarely or never expressing needs or feelings. The problem with that belief is that it tends to make us lose our own self-awareness. The truth is that when we lose awareness of what is going on inside ourselves, that lack of awareness makes us weak. When we become consciously aware of our feelings, we become stronger, because then we can accept responsibility for speaking or acting to provide for our own emotional needs. Once we know our own needs and accept responsibility for them, we can be open to hearing the needs and truths of others if we open our awareness from a place of love rather than fear. So there's a whole lot in that. Basically, the bottom line is, know thyself and to thine own self be true is a real starting point, probably the most genuine starting point for our excursions into truth. Know thyself. That means know all that icky stuff that we like to hide and deny, and I'll go into denial about all that stuff. It's there, we need to know it. We need to heal it, because loving ourselves, healing it, knowing it, will enable us to be true to ourselves. And when we can be true to ourselves, we can calm down, relax, and come from a place of love to hear the truths and needs of others. Mindfulness that Thich Nhat Hanh mentioned is one of the best tools for getting into that space of what's really going on inside me that's blocking me from really getting what this other person is saying. What's blocking me from hearing their truth. Mindfulness is great for that. Okay. Overcoming/harmonizing dualities continued. I'd love to invite you to visualize a yin-yang sign. I didn't manage to get one on here. In perfect harmony. It's not this or this. It's both and with the dots in the other sides. It's the harmony. Okay? It's not that one is better than the other. So we have a whole lot of ideas that we need to harmonize. I can't list them all here. So the Eastern-Western duality, you heard I was born on the equator in Africa, and also Africa is halfway between East and West. So I'm all for unifying all different directions around the globe in order to access truth. I think I was born maybe for this. If we only think like a Westerner, and again, I started out in Africa, so I went into culture shock when we moved here to Chevy Chase and I was in 5th grade. That was culture shock for me. Okay? If we only think like a Westerner, we are only accessing part of truth. If we only think like an Easterner, we're only accessing part of truth. We need each other. If I learn nothing else from growing up in multiple countries, we need each other in order to fully understand truth. And then we have other dialectics or dualities: rich, poor, communal, individual, or collectivism, individualism, right brain, left brain, intellect, intuition. Have you ever thought about the fact that rich people have a different version of truth than poor people, and that maybe we need to listen to rich people and poor people? Have you ever talked with, anyone ever had a conversation with a homeless person who has just, and they come out with this amazing wisdom? I know a gentleman who used to be homeless. You might have met him. He hangs out, he's very well known, Elijah. He wears just shorts, cut-out shorts, and generally shoeless unless he has to wear them to go into a library or something. Elijah hangs out in Franklin Park, I think, or the park near the White House, whatever. He just finished reading this. He said, "It's good. I already knew most of it. It's pretty wordy." He just emailed me that. Okay. All right. Thank you, Elijah. Homeless people have truths to speak to us too, okay? Poor, rich, in between, we all have some sense of truth. And we need each other. And then there's communal individual. I came here first to hear the Russian ladies. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. I had to give up that Sunday, by the way. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to get to hear the Russian ladies. That was just very heartwarming. And your response to them was very heartwarming to me as well. Made me feel a lot safer coming here and talking. So thank you on many counts. I love the concept of the common good, and they mentioned that, and I found that very heartwarming. Here in the U.S., we have this rugged individualism from our frontier days. It's still ingrained in us. Well, it's great. I love my individual free rights, but I also long for us to cultivate the common good in some way that makes sense so that everyone can be healed and whole and have access to their needs and to speaking their truth. We need to balance that. Guess what? A mom's view is also very helpful in this. Any mom knows that you've got to give children their individual freedoms, but that everybody has to learn how to live together and not burn the house down. Okay, so sometimes we need to listen more to moms and mom's truth. It's not just father knows best. Really? Left brain, right brain. Gonna look up Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, My Stroke of Insight. Remarkable understanding that in the left brain we're so analytical and judgmental, in the right brain we're so, I'm one with the universe. Please look it up. It's a book and a TED Talk. Intellect, intuition. I know how hard it is to move from intellect to intuition. I know exactly when I did it. 1996. I was, 38 or something. I wasn't going to go there. I didn't like fluffy stuff that wasn't rational and logical. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't allowed to put angels on the Christmas tree because they're not real, according to my mom. You know, but when my husband died, I discovered angels. A lot of things happened when my husband died, and that brought out a spirituality I didn't know before. Vanderbilt Divinity School was very rational though, so I really resisted miracles and all that stuff. And then I ran into Autobiography Yogi. Somebody gave me a copy. Anybody know Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda? Beautiful, lovely. The first time I tried to read it, I couldn't do it. There were too many miracles. I closed it. I was like, no way, this is real. Can't be true. And then, thank God, I went, oh yeah, I'm not practicing multicultural respect. I was raised on multicultural respect. I need to respect that this Indian gentleman from a different part of the 20th century was speaking his truth, and that his truth is somehow in the direction of the truth. And that respect, that multicultural respect, made all the difference in the world for me opening up to this, I don't know, is it Vedanta, Hinduism, yoga, philosophy, understanding of truth. Paramahansa Yogananda made more sense of life, the universe, God, Jesus Christ, Jesus' miracles, everything than anyone or anything I'd ever heard or read before. Not even my mom, not even Vanderbilt Divinity School. So I launched into intuition. The same time I started practicing Raja Yoga meditation, and that's made all the difference in the world for me. The humorous irony is that what intellect believes to be true, intuition considers to be illusion, and what intuition believes to be true, intellect considers to be illusion. So how do we make sense of that? It's sort of both and, but in yoga philosophy, we're back to the yoga science now, there's the quality of duality in the universe, that is and is not. There's God and not God, as I wrote about it in my own theological writings. There was God and not God, or nothingness. So if we look at the universe without God, we get Western science. If we look at the universe with God, we get Eastern science of yoga anyway. But all of it's related to subtle energy. I'm going to skip a bunch of this. Both of them are sciences. We can do replicable results with both of them. We start with theories or beliefs or whatever, and we can go with replicable results. What was predicted to me when I first learned Raja Yoga meditation 21 years ago, throat chakra is seat of clairaudience, brow chakra is seat of clairvoyance or having visions, crown chakra is the seat of self-realization, God realization. This stuff has all come true. My crown chakra is energized enough. I get stuff, would not claim to be self-realized or God-realized, but I'm aware of this incredible stuff up there that I never was before. So it's replicable. I can testify to that. Many people can. Subtle energy. I really, really want to talk with you about subtle energy. It's so hard to stand still. How many of you have ever felt that you've ever gone to like an auditorium or a stadium for either a big sporting event or a music concert, and you literally felt the excitement in the air? How many of you have done that? Come on, please help us out. Thank you. Most of us have felt that feeling of the excitement in the air. And guess what? No one had to explain it to you when you were a little kid. Hey, you know what you're feeling? That's a subtle energy form called excitement. That feeling of excitement in the air, it's a certain wave pattern, and that's why you're picking up on it. No, because it has a wave pattern that has a message to it, and we're all intuitively programmed to pick it up. The only way we don't is if we've shut down our emotions and our intuitive system. We can do that, but thank goodness most of us do not. I can say thank God in here, right? Can I? Oh, thank you. Okay. Have you ever been in a room? Hopefully not at this church. I love your, what's that called? Your thing you just passed, the vision thing. It's beautiful. Anyway, have you ever been in a room where you could feel the tension in the air, and it was so thick, as the old proverb saying goes, you could cut it with a knife? How many of us have felt that?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Not fun. And nobody had to say to you, be careful about what you say next. There's already enough tension here. No, nobody had to say that, because tension is a different form of subtle energy. It carries a different message in its wave pattern, and we're all intuitively programmed to pick it up. Look, are you getting excited? You're already an intuitive expert. You already know subtle energy. You're already an expert in subtle energy, and you just didn't even know it. So you're already, oh good. I'm glad you knew it. Thank you for correcting me. So you're all yoga scientists, and you can go forth from here and be even more yoga scientists. And have you ever stood near someone who was so angry you could feel the anger coming off of them? Different wave pattern. Nobody had to tell you, watch out, because you're intuitively programmed to pick it up. And I trust and hope and pray that you have all felt the energy of love. And you knew how safe and warm and wonderful that felt. Yes? Okay. Yeah, the cool thing about doing energy healing is sooner or later we start feeling these amazing things in people's energy fields, and there's like whole information. It's astounding, and I wish I could have time to share with you the story. So the model in Truth and Illusion for understanding how we grow in our understanding of truth is based on the chakras. Here are the 7. Here is the Kundalini energy rising. There's a feminine nadi. See the word nadi, those, the yellow and blue. One's feminine, one's masculine. But nobody ever explained to me what the feminine and masculine energies are, so I just asked intuitively, and the rest came out. This symbol that you know as the medical symbol is the sign of the Kundalini rising through the chakra system in order to achieve the liberation of the soul. That's why it has wings. Because our true well-being comes from the energy of our soul, which is flowing through the chakra system of our bodies. And I know that because I was widowed, and when my husband died of a cerebral aneurysm, his brain got flooded with blood, and they kept him physically alive, but I would hold his hand and felt nothing. And I kept trying to figure out what I was missing, feeling. Decades later, became a healer and realized I wasn't feeling the energy presence of his soul. Okay, in Truth and Illusion, there are 3 dimensions. This is how we cultivate our wisdom. We grow through spiritual practices that raise our energies through the chakra system. So we have the worldview of each chakra, the feminine and the masculine energies of each chakra. Yay, it's in the Kundalini. I'm so excited that it's actually there. We can't have one without the other and get fully all the way up. It just doesn't work very well. And then we have the energies of love or fear. Fear shuts us down. Fear blocks our access to truth. Fear not only does it metaphorically, but it actually affects the amygdala in our brain. Repeated stress has been shown to fire the amygdala so much, shut down part of the prefrontal cortex so that the amygdala starts perceiving everything as a threat. Think police officers shooting innocent people. If we can calm ourselves down, we can look out there and see the world as it really is. When we don't come from a place of fear, it no longer looks like everything's a threat. And I hope you've experienced this too. Miracles can occur. So having only a lower chakra view limits our sense of truth. Even those of us who are up in these upper chakras, if we still have inner wounded child, we go right back down to that fear-based issue in whatever lower chakra that still needs to heal. That's why some of us aren't all the way up there yet, because we need to heal all this other stuff that's still going fear, 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 ouch, ouch, ouch. So we want to cultivate and heal all of our inner wounds so that we can more fully access truth. Love. Love indeed expands our awareness. Love is the energy of the universe. It's the energy that grows our spiritual development. Practicing loving others will help us move up in our chakra development and access truth. So as we get up into the crown chakra, that's the full blooming of truth. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there or not here. I've got lots of lovely slides, but let's move on. Root chakra. Caroline Mays, if you read Anatomy of the Spirit, points out it's the tribal chakra. So you can recognize people who have root chakra worldviews by them saying, my team, my city, my family, my church, my people, identity with my ethnic group, my alma mater. So somebody who's big into any of those things and you hear about it all the time, they're root chakra oriented, which is fine. The beautiful version of that, so loyalty is a big value. Here we've got the masculine energies to procreate outwards, dominion, not domination, and I define that in my book, protect the family. Feminine is to embody incarnational creation, to nurture, to connect with others. Fear-based becomes all about my people versus your people. So we build walls and we kick out Muslims if we're fear-based root chakra people. Got it? Making sense? If we're love-based root chakra people, we're like, oh, come on, one more in the family is a good thing. Or we're all children of God, or we're all one family all the way around the world. And the best expression of it I know is Ubuntu from South Africa. I am because we are. Everybody belongs. Sacral chakra. This is I'm going to cut to the chase for politicians and religious people. Politicians here in the sacral chakra, the ones we're maybe being bugged, some of us are not enjoying right now, are mostly masculine energy, fear-based, no feminine sense of equality, justice, fairness, and are not really using their masculine energy of self-discipline correctly because they have fear. They also take that self-discipline and use it as power over somebody else. Okay? The religious folks that live down here, reside down here, it's a religious rule book. The Bible tells you to do this. The Bible tells you not to do that. The Quran says you must do this. The Vedas, I had somebody argue Hinduism with me the other day and says to do this. And I was like, okay, I understand. I was looking at it a totally different way, but if it says this, it says this. It's right, wrong. Rule book. Fear-based masculine energy leads to that power over oppression, slavery, especially if we're still doing that fear-based in the root chakra where those other people are different. My people are good. Your people are, I'm terrified of them, but I won't admit that I'm terrified of them, so I have to oppress them. The resistance movement is reacting in sacral chakra. Justice, equality, fairness. Resist. That's feminine energies of the sacral chakra. Okay? By the way, masculine energy of the sacral chakra is a beautiful thing. Self-discipline is absolutely essential, vital. Okay? That dominion over self is essential on the spiritual path. Solar plexus. Here we get the teenage stuff of I really want to just be free to do my thing. So libertarianism is the masculine energy, the feminine energy without the self-discipline of the sacral chakra, a masculine self-discipline of sacral chakra. The feminine energy of this one can be, oh, let's just do whatever goes, and do drugs, bohemian, whatever, let everybody do their own thing. The ultimate is live and let live, because that's a loving thing to agree with. We do have to form some boundaries, but that's sort of the ultimate. Nietzsche, by the way, was very much a solar plexus person. Heart chakra. I really was like, I don't know if I described it as a worldview in here, and I didn't take time to look. These are the hero's journey. That's what this is. The bodhisattvas in the hero journey. Because the feminine energy is compassion, the masculine energy is courage. So we are out to save the world in beautiful, loving, positive possibility sorts of ways. Shutting down the heart chakra, the fear is closed-hearted, cruel, and kind. Love base is courageous and compassionate. Oh, I argued with higher intuition when it came to the throat chakra. All I had learned in my training was that it's the seat of clairaudience, or hearing the voice of God. It can also be psychic. If we're not intending just purely to hear the voice of God, this one can be opening us up to psychic experiences. But what I got when I was writing intuitively was this is where we choose intellect or intuition. And I argued back, I don't want to write that because there are going to be so many spiritual people who know that the brow chakra is the fullness of intuition and intellect more fully than the throat chakra. And then I was told, no, think about the jugular veins. That shows you how old I am. Jugular veins. The carotid arteries. And I looked them up and I was like, one carotid artery energizes one side of the brain, the other carotid artery opens up and feeds the blood to the other side of the brain. So I get it. This is where we make the choice for intellect and intuition. That's why it's so hard for some of us to go with both. Because one is just great. I can be left-brained all the time I want, or I can be psychic or intuitive or whatever and be artistic or whatever and just go that path in life. But the ultimate is both. Okay. Brow chakra. Woohoo! I love being in a place where I can say Christ consciousness is pretty much the same thing as Buddha consciousness. It's pretty much the same as enlightened consciousness, unity consciousness. Thank you for letting me be in a place where it's okay to say that. I don't have to just say, hey, and I don't even have to argue with someone over whether Christ is better than Christ consciousness. I had somebody the other day argue, no, we're Catholic, we have the fullness of truth because we have Christ, who's God, and your Christ consciousness stuff is wrong. Thank you for letting me be here and say this. When we get to the brow chakra, it is not at all about us anymore. We are so aware that there is a larger consciousness in all of us that is true, that is compassion, that is selfless. Buddha invited people to live in sanghas so that we would learn that selflessness. He taught that we have no self. I spent a day arguing with Buddha about this. That tells you a little bit about me that's not going to come out here. Spent a day with Buddha. I'm going to understand what you meant. I'm going to get this. What I believe Buddha meant is there's no self that arises from form. There's no lower self that arises from form. But there is one large self of which we are all a part. And here we really start getting in tune with that. And here, and by the way, the color is much more white for the crown chakra. That's just a slide I happen to have convenient. Here, there's no feminine, masculine duality. All's one, we're all one, and it's just this big, huge, happy celebration of bliss. Because the attachment to this world doesn't matter anymore. Jesus said, consider the lilies. That's non-attachment. Buddha, non-attachment. Non-attachment is where we get into the oneness. If we want to be me, this is who I am, blah, 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 and no, just let it go, bliss. All is one. We are one. And I am really grateful for getting to stand here. I cannot yet say that I've had maybe glimpses of that God consciousness, but I hope we all experience that sooner rather than later and get liberated from this cycle of rebirth. And here's a drawing. The young man who did the cover for me also did this drawing, Devon Flanagan. These are the different versions of truth, and I will end there. Thank you ever so much for letting me talk about truth and religion.